Right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's session. We're looking at comprehension strategy instruction today. However, we will not be looking at KWL, DRTA, SQ3R, or any of those traditional methods that are used to teach comprehension because, as I had indicated in the past, those methods are not suitable for English teachers because the advantage that you have as English teachers is that you are aware of the grammar of English. And what we will be doing is looking at how the grammar of English can be used in order to help students construct what is known as a situation model. So you see this term here. So the situation model, if you look up on Google, if you do a search for situation model, you see it was developed by Kintsch and Dijk. And the situation model is, as I said here, a mental representation of what is happening in a text. So let's just go back a bit and consider what this means. So if you look at the text I have there above situation model, it says mangroves protect shorelines from erosion, right? And let's just read it. Mangroves protect shorelines from damaging storm and hurricane winds, waves, and floods, etc. So the text here is talking about mangroves and what they do, but a mangrove is an actual thing. It's a vegetation that exists in coastal areas. So it's a real thing that exists outside there in the world. And in order to talk about it, describe it, explain its functions, for example, we use words. We set those words down on a piece of paper somewhere, or you type it in electronically, and somebody else, a reader, then looks at the words on the page or on the screen or listens to us and then has to reconstruct, based on the words that are there, reconstruct what it is we are saying about some phenomenon that exists out in the real world. So I can hop into my car or any other vehicle and go down to a swamp and find a mangrove, okay? So that's the experiential aspect of it. I can actually go there and visit a mangrove. But if I am not close to the mangrove and I were to see a passage about mangroves in a text or on a screen, what I have to do then is I have to read the words, and I have to now deconstruct those words and reconstruct them in my brain and picture what it is that the writer is talking about. So in order to do that, in the process of doing that, I make a situation model, which is a mental representation of what is happening inside of the text. What is the text talking about? My ability to reconstruct that thing that the writer put on the page or on the screen, my mental ability to do that depends upon my ability to recognize what is happening in the sentences, right? And if I'm able to do that, then I could construct a situation model. So that really is the purpose of comprehension strategy instruction. The purpose is to get readers to actively construct mental representations of what is happening in a text. The problem is, or one of the problems, is that as one moves high up into school, texts become more complex, and it becomes increasingly difficult to create a mental representation of what is happening in the text, because the text become denser, require more background knowledge and that sort of thing, which we'll be going through. So that's what a situation model is. What we have to remember too is that as a basis for comprehension, we have to remember that English sentences contain, by definition, a subject and a verb. There are cases where you have verbless sentences, but those are not many. The average or typical sentence you will encounter and that your students will encounter are sentences that contain a subject and a verb, where the subject performs some kind of action, and that action, as we know, can be in the form of the verb to be. You can be, and I'll come to that just now. In passive constructions, action is done to the subject. In active constructions, the subject is one that's doing the action. In passive constructions, something is being done to the subject. All right, so those are considerations that we have to bear in mind always. This is basically the key to comprehension instruction. Our understanding that all English sentences, and that's what these students will encounter, our readers will encounter English sentences, and every English sentence that they will encounter contains a subject and a verb. Sometimes the subject is implied, all right, and that makes it a bit more difficult. So we'll have to have some tricks and some tools to help the students, the readers, to identify the subject that appears to be missing. In order to construct a situation model, first thing we have to do is this. We have to identify who or what is doing what. The who or the what will be the subject. In some grammars, the who or the what is called the agent. The agent being the active thing or person that is performing an action. All right? So you have to ask who or what is doing what. And the predicate part of the sentence, if you will, would give us information, further or additional information, such as when, where, or why is that action happening. All right? So this is the essential step in constructing the situation model. And this is what we have to teach students to do. We have to teach them to always ask, when they encounter a paragraph, who or what is doing what. In other words, what's happening in the paragraph. All right? So by the end, when we ask who or what is doing what, at the end of that paragraph, we should know what were the main actions taking place and who or what is responsible. Put another way, at the end of reading a paragraph, what we should know is what is the major action taking place in the paragraph, because that is what a sentence is. A sentence, in an English sentence, something is always happening. Okay? Something is always happening in an English sentence. Why? Well, if you say that a sentence in English comprises a subject and a verb is the doing word, something is, right? The verb describes something that is happening. So something is, and if every sentence has a verb, except for the rare ones that are verbless, then something is always happening in an English sentence. And therefore the task that we are faced with in teacher comprehension is of getting our readers to understand what it is are the main actions that are taking place in the sentence and in the paragraph, and then who or what was responsible for it. Okay?